Hello, everybody. I normally go through and tell you about the hands and everything, but I think everybody's done this before, so let me just turn it over to Elena to start her presentation.
Thank you, BL. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Before we start, as usual, we have a short alignment which I am going to put on the screen. So please, everybody, quieten down all the lower fields. Focus the attention in the head. And imagine the light of the soul pouring through the mental body, integrating the personality. Sound the 3 ohms and imagine the white golden light illuminating the mental body. Purifying the astral body. Strengthening the etheric body. Visualize the threefold personality as being unified with the white light. Personality soul fusion. See the lower triangle representing the personality with the mental body at the apex of the triangle, and the physical and astral bodies at the base of the triangle, with the apex pointing upwards. Above the lower triangle, see the brightly lit higher triangle, representing the soul with its apex pointing downwards. By an act of the will, see these 2 triangles merging together and forming a 6-pointed star. See the 6-pointed star as a shining sun, representing the soul-infused personality. And sound the silent Om to confirm this fusion. Group alignment. Visualize a sphere of pure white light and the group members as miniature shining suns inside and around the sphere. see a sphere of light linking the heart centers of all the group members. A sphere of light linking the head centers. And sphere of light linking the ajna centers of all the group members. Imagine the light rapidly circulating through these three spheres and aligning the three group centers: ajna, heart, and head into one mind, one soul, and one will. To confirm the group alignment, we sound the Om as a group. Thank you, everybody. In the meantime, I will put back the picture of the disciple CDP. And I will start with a little bit connecting where we left the last webinar, where we were discussing the integration between astral and mental bodies in relation to the focus of the rays of the personality and soul in the three lower vehicles in relation to the process of personality integration and that of soul, mind, brain alignment. What I didn't say for shortness of time there was that we are told that it seldom happens that the threefold personality is found in complete alignment or fusion. Okay, with the soul. Maybe only in temporary moments of high aspiration or high moments in meditation, these two levels, personality and soul, form a direct, unbroken, and unimpeded line. That it is usually the astral or emotional body which is out of alignment. And we all know how difficult it is to control these energies of emotional vibration, restlessness. And when it is momentarily aligned, then the mental body becomes the obstruction, standing in the way to the flow from the soul down to the physical brain. So it takes many lives of application and effort before the astral body is completely still and the mental body is built so that it becomes a clear channel. And even if this has been somewhat accomplished and the emotional body becomes a pure reflector of the energies coming down, and the mental body can truly discriminate, which was not the case of CDP, for example, and it becomes intelligent interpreter of the truth, what is coming down, it still takes many lives of discipline and effort to align these two bodies, astral and mental, at the same time. So if one is aligned, the other is not. And when we achieve that both are aligned at the same time without any interference, then comes the final alignment and control of the physical brain. In order to become, for the brain, the direct receiver and transmitter of the higher energies or ideas, and to reflect with accuracy either the soul energies or the energies coming from the spiritual triad. So you see, that's why the process of the integration of the personality is such a long process, which takes the first 3 initiations and many, many lives. So even for CDP, who has only lately, as we have been told in the last webinar, achieved the integration between her astral and mental bodies, they are not completely aligned yet. The astral body is still a big problem for her, swimming in many glamours. We have talked about her second-ray soul being focused in her fifth-ray mind, leading to the soul-mind alignment. And in this alignment is usually Venus involved, particularly with these 2 rays, which condition Venus, second ray and fifth ray. It is an occult truth that in order for an accepted disciple to be admitted into a master's group, as was the case of CDP, she must be spiritual impressionable. You will see that there is going to be focus on the word impressions, where she can function as a mind in collaboration with her own soul, with whom she has established contact. She had a soul contact. In other words, there must be soul-mind alignment in order for that to happen. Then, I mean the collaboration between the soul and the mind there, right? Then she can work somewhat as a conscious soul, and the master can begin to impress her with group ideas via her own soul. And we know that CDP was at the stage of the pledged disciple becoming the accepted disciple. It means entering the path of accepted discipleship. And she was permitted to participate in that case in the ashramic activity with additional ability to register ashramic and eventually, as she moves forward, hierarchical impression. Again, the word impression. This is a very important word to understand in relation to CDP, and we will soon discover why. So, but this is only possible after she has learned to register impression coming to her from her own soul and from the surrounding environment and circumstances she found herself. Okay? As we see that everything is a process and nothing happened from one day to the other or from one year to the other. So in the process of soul-mind-brain alignment, the function of the mind is to act as the midway point, the intermediary between the soul and the brain, like the soul is the intermediary between the monad and the personality. And then to transmit to the brain what she, as a soul, has become aware of. Okay? The mind receives illumination from the soul in the form of ideas or intuitions. When one is reached that level to do that, which are always in a form of direct, infallible knowledge or intuition, the pure reason. And then the mind throws down into the brain the intuitive knowledge which the soul has transmitted. Okay? What is important to know that there are different stages of this soul-mind-brain alignment process, such as soul-mind alignment, which I already mentioned, what it represents. Then we have a mind-brain alignment, which is, lower levels. From the personality perspective, it indicates certain brain and mind realizations, which are essential for the right transmission of force upon the physical plane, because the brain is involved there. Then we have a mind-soul alignment, soul-brain alignment, and these not necessarily follow for everyone in the same order, and the higher alignment does not necessarily or automatically includes the lower. So it is very individual process which is related to our stage, polarization of our consciousness, initiatory process, and so on. To my understanding, CDP needs to develop the alignment between soul and brain. And this is going to be the focus of this webinar as a main discussion. We see that one of the reasons, possible reasons, behind the choice of the soul prior to incarnation to choose the sixth ray to condition her physical body, it means also the brain, is that to provide a particular structure of the brain in order to proceed with this development or achievement of soul-brain alignment. When we're talking about a brain from astrological point of view, it is usually the planet Earth, Saturn, or Moon, always veiling a planet, or Uranus could condition the brain at very high stage of evolution. For CDP, the ruler of the brain is Saturn, which is placed in Pisces. Now, I will try to put the natal chart of CDP, and here we go. For those who are completely new to this, you see the rays of the disciple CDP: second ray soul, sixth ray personality, fifth ray mind, sixth ray astral, and sixth ray brain. Okay? Now, the brain is here. It couldn't be better indicated that it is with that Saturn in Pisces, and Pisces transmits the second and sixth ray, and Saturn is the third ray planet. So we have a brain under sixth ray influence there. Okay? As we are focusing today only on at the soul brain, we want to see, how it is seen in her chart. And I will be discussing, all the astrology only from that perspective of the soul brain alignment here. So, Jupiter, second ray planet, is her soul ruler. She's a second ray soul. It is placed in Sagittarius, which transmit the ray 4, 5, and 6. We have the sixth ray there also, 4, 6, 2, 2, 4, 6 line. And both Saturn, the brain, are in aspect to Venus. Saturn square Venus and square Jupiter. And Jupiter is opposition Venus. We have a T-square. Okay? And Venus is related to the ray 2, 5, and 6. The rays 2 and 6 are found on the monadic level of Venus, and she's transmitting the fifth ray. And she's representing the soul also. So we have two soul planets in relation to the brain, Saturn. And as we see, T-square is not a very easy combination of astrological energies, and that's why it would be not easy for her to develop this soul-brain alignment. There is another planet which is very important and the most important for CDP, and that is Neptune. Neptune, which is transmitting the sixth ray, and it's placed in the sign of Taurus, which transmits the ray 4. So we are coming through all these placements so far to the 246 line of energies. And Taurus is the sign of vision, as is Sagittarius. There are two signs of vision related to ajna, and ajna is ruled by Taurus. And ajna center is the externalization of the pituitary body, which is one of the glands in the physical brain. Okay? And both the ajna and pituitary body are conditioned by the 6th ray ruling the brain. Very unusual energy to have on that level, which is usually conditioned by the ray 3 or 7. Okay? Now, Neptune is astrologically the most important planet for her because it is the soul ruler or esoteric ruler of her Cancer ascendant. Okay? And it is also the hierarchical or monadic ruler of Cancer and indicating the astral Buddhic line. Neptune and Cancer are the energies ruling the Buddhic plane. The whole is seen as one, is the mantra of Cancer for the Buddhic plane. Thus Neptune rules the brain as a 6th ray planet. Very unusual. So Neptune indicates the soul's purpose for this incarnation. And one of its purposes was the choice as the soul decided as a conscious choice prior to incarnation to choose that 6th ray as the conditioning energy of the physical body and the brain automatically. Okay? So there must have been a very good reason here, which we are going to or attempt to discover why was that energy chosen. Okay? We also see that Neptune, now adding to these two soul planets, Jupiter and Venus, is also making aspect to that Saturn, which is the brain. So all three planets which are related to the soul are in aspect to that brain. Okay? And both Neptune and Saturn making aspect to the ascendant, making a triangle, Neptune, ascendant, Saturn, sextile, sextile, trine. That is very significant because it is confirming that the soul purpose of the soul, a part of it, was to make this soul-brain alignment. And she has all the support with this triangle to do that, but not through this one, the T-square, you see? Neptune is also in aspect to Jupiter, the second ray soul planet, by what we call quincunx or inconjunct, 150-degree aspect, a very significant aspect from other perspective of the imagination and creative imagination when she would use this aspect particularly in building of her garden upon the inner planes. The astral Buddhic connection is very important for CDP because DK said to her that the reason for having 6th ray brain was because it made her intuitive or astral Buddhic. And with that statement, he has given us a very important hint, which we will follow as we proceed with this discussion. And I will try to show you that that reference where he's actually telling her that. And here it is. Your physical body is also on the sixth ray, which makes it, and therefore your brain, predominantly the servant of your astral body, which was also on the sixth ray, but it also makes you intuitive or astral buddhic. Therefore, I would have you note that in your case, there is an exception to the usual rule controlling the physical body, which is ray 3 or 7, for very few bodies are on the sixth ray as is yours. DINA 1, page 520. Now, I will just maybe bring back the chart. So, you see this astral Buddhic line here. The Buddhic plane, you see, is also conditioned by Venus and Jupiter, which together with Neptune, which also condition the Buddhic plane, are the three planets related to the second initiation for which CDP was preparing. You see them we have already mentioned them, Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune. We are told that the brain is always composed of the atoms and cells units which vibrate to the energy of the ray which controls the physical body or the brain. That is why DK said that it's very few physical brains are on a sixth ray as hers, because it's very, very unusual energy, you know, to condition it. She will have a great problem with this alignment. But when she achieves it, the brain would become the transmitter of the soul knowledge, and pure love, one of her keywords, pure love of development in her formula, CDP, P stands for pure love, and she would be able to express the soul knowledge and soul love upon the physical plane through that physical brain, and to love as a soul and respond and see the soul in those she loved, and not to relate and see them as personalities. And this was her major problem. She was relating to these people, her children, her family, as personalities. The other reason behind the need for the soul brain alignment, to my understanding, lies in the science of impression and of contact. Because CDP was a member of the group of telepathic communicators who were under the training to receive impressions, you see the word, which I try to bring your attention to that word from the very beginning, from different levels of perception depending upon their stage of the path. Now, the science of impressions forms the subjective basis which unites together the entire world of knowledge, of science, and of religion, and the fundamental ideas which underlies these areas of thought all emanate from the intuitional and Buddhic levels. So this science of impression lies behind the ideas of right human relations, and it will enable to present those ideals which will eventually produce the new civilization and new culture. So you see, intuitional and Buddhic levels are mentioned here again from these impressions, which these impressions are coming. And you see ideas which are manifesting down as ideals. Buddhic plane is the first of the four cosmic ethers where we find the source of ideas which descend down and become ideals. And here we find the relation to the Buddhic plane, to the ajna as the organ of idealism when under the conditioning influence of the sixth ray. Now, I will show you that very important reference. And this is this one. It, the ajna, is the organ of idealism. Therefore, and curiously enough, it is closely related to the sixth ray, just as the head center is essentially related to the first ray. The sixth ray is peculiarly linked to the third ray and the third aspect of divinity, as well as to the second ray and the second aspect. It fuses, anchors, and expresses. This is a fact which I have not hitherto emphasized in my other writings. It means this is the only reference to these ideas. The ajna center is the point in the head where the dualistic nature of manifestation in the three worlds is symbolized. It fuses the creative energies of the throat and the sublimated energies of desire or the true love of the heart. It means the sublimated energies of the solar plexus to the heart. Okay? And this is in Esoteric Healing, page 149. So idealism, which is the power to see the vision and to direct one's course towards it, is also one of the keynotes of Sagittarius. Okay? And to bring her chart back, we are bringing another planet to this process, and that is Mars. The critical degree Mars, which we discussed from the perspective of another subjects. And this work of Mars, of the idealism, is the expression of the sixth ray, which is transmitted through that Mars. And as we see that Mars conjunct that Venus is opposition to Jupiter and is square to Saturn. It means it is part of this important T-square. Okay? So as we see here, we are finding confirmation as we go along, or the reason why that sixth ray is conditioning her brain. 6 is the number of idealism, and of that driving force which is represented by that Mars, which moves us forward upon the path, which is ruled by Sagittarius, the path generally, and the ninth house of Sagittarius rules the path upon which we stand and walk towards the greater light of vision. Sagittarius and Taurus, the signs of vision. Sagittarius is also one of the intuitive signs, and CDP obviously has a Jupiter in Sagittarius, aspecting that Mars, as I said, Saturn. So, coming back now to the science of impression and contact, which I am finding as the most important background to this process, can be broken up in 4 stages, which are progressively developed from each other. But we will only sort of discuss the first stage of this process because it is particularly related to the CDP. Because this first stage is that of astral sensitive awareness, which is based upon the reactions of the solar plexus and is entirely carried on upon the astral plane. Now this astral sensitive awareness in its highest form becomes the factor which makes later possible intuitive awareness and intuitive sensitivity. But then the process is carried forward upon the Buddhic plane. So you see the astral Buddhic line is following here. And that's why aspirants or disciples are, DK says, at one stage of their development astral Buddhic in nature, as was the disciple CDP. That's why DK is telling her that her sixth ray brain make her intuitive or astral Buddhic. You see, that's how a master can give us a clue by one sentence, even one word, which can lead us to some new understandings, discoveries. Now, astrologically, we see this link or transition from astral to Buddhic substance in Mars, the astral, you ruling the astral body, okay? And Neptune, the Buddhic, where both these planets use the X-ray energy which they transmit in its lower and higher aspects. Okay? Now this is something which many of you would not know, because not using the midpoints, which I do, because they lead us to the deeper revelation. When we calculate the midpoint between Mars and Neptune as the two X-ray planets linking the astral and Buddhic levels, is found at 15 degrees Taurus 52 minutes, and is making almost exact aspect to Uranus through the square at 15 degrees Leo 54. Now, Uranus is placed in Sagittarian decanate of Leo. We are coming back to that Sagittarian energy. Okay? And thus linking not only two signs of vision, Taurus and Sagittarius, the decanate, in relation to the ajna, which is the center of vision, visualization, but also linking Uranus with Taurus. And how the link is, because Uranus has its fall. You know, we have fall, detriments, and exaltation of planets in astrology. And here it is the link, further link to that Taurus through that Uranus, because it has its fall in Taurus, where we are told in esoteric astrology that the task of Uranus is to awaken and evoke the intuitive response of Taurus to an ever-increasing light until such time that full illumination, Taurus, ajna illumination, is achieved. And also the development of the spiritual consciousness, substituting these higher soul aspects for the lower form reactions. Now you see, we are back to that intuitive energy. Now, Uranus has its exaltation in Scorpio, the sign opposite to Taurus. And through that exaltation, when it is actually there, Uranus being in Scorpio, it indicates the success of the task which the Uranian forces undertook through that fall of Uranus in Taurus. And then the achievement is attained. Obviously, this is a process of many lives, and it doesn't mean that we find Uranus in Taurus or Scorpio that these energies would function in that way. We need to align the levels of these energies to the level of the disciple or the person whose chart we are looking at. And this is the most difficult point to establish, okay? But because we know who CDP is, we see how important this relation of the Uranus, even it is not placed in either in Taurus or Scorpio, but it has a relation to both of these signs, Moon making a square from Scorpio, the test she is taking to enter the path of accepted discipleship, is square to that Uranus. Okay? Each planet, each sign, each house can be interpreted, the same planet, same signs, from a number of different levels, planes and subplanes, okay, which we need to align to the level of consciousness of the disciple here, in this case, which I am attempting to do here, following that astral Buddhic line, which DK is giving us a hint why that six-ray brain. Now, another interesting point is that astral plane is ruled by Sagittarius. Okay? And the Buddhic plane is ruled by Scorpio. So we have the Uranian very important square to that midpoint of two six-ray planets related to the Sagittarian energy through that placement in decanate, Sagittarian decanate of Leo, and thus the astral plane, and through its exaltation in Scorpio to the Buddhic plane. Beside this, there is a strong influence of Sagittarius and Scorpio present in the chart as a whole, as we see how very, very important planets are placed in Sagittarian house, signs, decanates, okay? And also the Sun, conjunct Chiron, is placed in the Sagittarian decade of Aries. And the Uranus from that Sagittarian decade of Leo is making a trine to that Sun, which is veiled by Neptune for her. Okay? As a disciple in a preparation for the second initiation. You see, to interpret the chart on this basis, we must know what we are looking for. Otherwise, we will never find it. We must know the underlying energies, and then we are just finding, you know, the astrology and trying to align it to those levels of that disciple. Okay? We see also that the moon and vertex, the point of fate, are in Scorpio, and the North Node is in Scorpio decanate of Pisces, okay? And, you know, the moon is squaring from Scorpio, as I said, to the Sagittarian decanae there. So we have a very powerful Sagittarius Scorpio energies here, you see. representing the line from buddhi, from astral to buddhic energies. And the whole chart, you know, through the powerful presence of the sixth ray, not only on her ray makeup, but the chart itself, you know, focusing on the triangle of the energies related, you know, water sign, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. These are energies of astral Buddhic line, from lower to higher. And she has these energies very powerful. Strong 12th house, brain in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces, Dharma, duty, responsibilities in Pisces, you know, strong Neptune in relation to Pisces. One of the difficulties facing disciples to record directly to the brain consciousness impressions, again the word I am using, impressions from the spiritual triad and later from the monad via the bridge or antakarana. Because this impression must come directly from the higher mental levels to the brain, first of all, avoiding all contacts with the astral body. Now here lies the major problem for CDP, okay, who struggled for the last 3 incarnations with a powerful 6th ray force. Now, this is her 4th life. And she is not going to be successful, as we discover, as we go through the instructions. So, she will need to deal with it in the 5th life, with this powerful 6th ray force. Obviously, we don't know on which level these energies would be, but they couldn't be stronger already in this life, conditioning, you know, the 3 levels there. It is because the astral level of consciousness is the great distorter of the essence, of the essential truths coming down, of the impressions. You remember when we were talking about the integration between the astral and mental bodies, you know? She came into this incarnation with very poor integrated personality. And only lately she integrated it, the astral with the mental. But before, the complete domination was by the astral body. And so, but the astral body is still remaining a big problem for her. Even the levels are integrated but not completely integrated. Okay, the personality is out of integration because the physical and etheric bodies are not integrated, you see? And the physical body is the brain. So there is a number of issues involved here, because if the impression is going through the astral body, which is not purified and under control, there is distortion and there is no clarity or accuracy of the impression. But the astral body is still working in number of glamours, as we discover as we go along through the instructions. Okay? And DK said to her, you know, as we read in that reference there, that physical and astral bodies on the sixth ray, and the astral body makes the brain the servant of the astral body. So the accuracy and clarity of the impression from the soul to the brain is not only distorted by the glamour, but she was not able to use the power of the second-ray soul, which can convey the deep love subjectively. Venus is in the 12th house of subjectivity, subjective area of the higher subtle planes, and the soul on its own plane, and unable not only to release herself, but the people on the physical plane were not able to receive this soul love. It's not being, she was holding herself and them in chains through the focus on their personalities and not their souls. You see? This Venus conjunct Mars, and they both squaring that Saturn, we see here from the perspective of the soul, Venus, and the physical plane, which is ruled by Mars and Saturn. You see how we can interpret the same planets from a different levels according what we are looking at. And you see these impressions from the ashram or from the triad are passing through 3 stages. The stage of mental recording, where, you know, they are coming to the mind records the impression. The second stage is the brain reception. The brain is only the receiver and transmitter of whatever it receives, it transmits. And then the third stage is recognition of the impression and the correct interpretation. Now, there were some disciples in Master DK's group which were particularly in the second and third stage of this process. It means the stage of brain reception and a correct interpretation, the third stage, okay? But they were all on different levels, you see, how they were handled, these things, and what they were individually aligning in where they were in the integration, alignment process, and so on. But from my perspective, the indications are that CDP was moving through the second stage of brain reception, where the accuracy of this reception and transmission will be dependent, DK is telling us this, upon certain factors here, okay? Another factors, beside those which we have already considered. It will be upon the quality of the physical brain cells, upon the polarization in the head center, and the freedom of the brain cells from all emotional impressions. Here we are focusing completely upon the condition of the brain, you see? Because even the head center is externalization of the pineal gland in the physical brain. Okay? So, you see, I am focusing completely on that sixth-ray brain in alignment to that soul. Trying to really deeply understand the reason behind that sixth-ray brain. And we are slowly discovering it. We must also, you see, understand that the first energy which influences the brain is the mind. Because the mind is the highest principle, the integrating principle of the personality and its three lower bodies. So the first energy comes to the brain always from the mind. And then comes the energy of the soul. So when, after the integration between her astral and mental bodies, the mind started to take control of her astral body, the brain, being the servant of the astral body, was also brought to some degree under the influence of the soul-illumined mind. But you see, there is a necessity for a direct and factual alignment, so that a direct channel is created along which the impression can descend into the brain. Okay? And we are told that the first step, this channel and alignment must be established between the brain and the soul, which also would involve the three aspects of the personality, the etheric, astral, and mental bodies. Another issue, a problem here would be for her that the etheric is not integrated with the dense physical, and that not going higher up with the astral and mental. There is a gap in alignment. And you know, surprisingly, DK is telling us that this aligning process between the brain and soul should be started and developed upon the path of probation, with a probationary disciple who started to focus the mind upon the mental plane and build the antakarana. And it should be brought to a relatively high state of effectiveness upon the earlier stages of the path of discipleship, where we find CDP. Okay? So, it is surprising to learn, you know, that this soul-brain alignment involves, you know, the etheric, astral, and mental bodies. It means when he mentioned etheric, it means the chakras, the etheric centers. When he is mentioned a physical, dense physical or physical brain, it would always be one of the glands in the brain. We also note, you know, that he's emphasizing both brains here, the physical and the etheric, bodies and brains. And so it is important to know that, you know, There is a physical brain conditioned by the three physical glands in the head, the pineal, pituitary, and carotid glands, which are externalized in the three etheric centers in the etheric body. The pineal is the head center, the pituitary is the ajna, and carotid gland is the alta major center. And when these triangles are completely aligned and functioning, we are at the third initiation, when it happens for the first time. Up till that point, we have these various alignment processes before we reach that complete functioning triangles in the physical and etheric brain. And one of these glands, you see, and centers, obviously, which, gland center, usually becomes a focal point of development in a particular life. And for CDP, it was the pituitary body and its externalization, the ajna, and both were conditioned by the sixth ray. Because the reason, you see, why she was building her garden, I will try to find the reference. Is here. Let your imagination guide you day by day into the steady work of restoration of her garden, remembering the goal of this exercise is to focus your attention in the region of the ajna center of the pituitary body. There, learn the power to organize. So this was the major reason behind building of that garden for her. Sorry, I am always trying to learn this computer slowly. Bringing back the chart. So, brain is receiving and transmitting mechanism. Via the senses, it transmits from emotional, mental planes, and obviously all the energy is coming then from the soul, which is on the higher mental planes. As a recipient of a mental energy from the soul, the ajna becomes the directing energy. Okay? And ajna controls the pituitary body. So the ajna in her case is ruled by Neptune and sixth ray. We already discussed that planet. Okay? Now this is extremely unusual that a Neptune with a sixth ray can rule the ajna, but it is ruling for her on the lower and higher levels. The Neptune for her with that sixth ray is conditioning the solar plexus in its higher aspect and Mars solar plexus on the lower aspect. You see the Mars Neptune energies with the sixth ray. And the ajna has a relation to all the rays, practically. It means any ray can condition ajna. But, as in this case, the controlling agency of the pituitary body, it represents the second ray or second aspect of divinity. Why? Because of the link of the pituitary body to the buddhi, to the astral buddhic line, and thus making relation to the love petals of the egoic lotus, the heart in the head, the buddhi or intuition, wisdom, ideal or idealism. Okay? Now I have one chart here where I want to show you the relation of the pituitary body directly to buddhi. And bear with me. And here it is. This is a chart from Cosmic Fire, chart 10. And here we have a pituitary body down here, physical gland, physical brain. And look the line where it is buddhi. But it is not a buddhic plane. They are the love petals of the egoic lotus on a higher mental plane. It means the love petals are related to buddhi and to the heart, and the pituitary body is related to these energies. Okay? So, if I show you another chart, that you actually see these alignments. I'm not sure that this is the chart. Just a moment. I think I need this chart. I am trying to just find the slice of that whole graph to the levels which I want to show you, that there is a relationship or link between the astral body, where we find imagination. You know, she used imagination in building of her garden, in the second subplane of the astral plane. Okay? And on this second subplane is also found the heart center. And the imagination is linking where? Follow the same to the intuition in the fourth subplane of a Buddhic plane, where, when I was preparing this webinar and saw this, you know, I said to myself, fourth subplane of Buddhic plane, could there be a Buddhic heart in relation to the buddhi, an egoic lotus heart there, and a heart down here between the shoulder blades, and the heart within the head? Because, you know, at the fourth initiation, we're dealing with the heart. And we have a 2, 4, 6 line here. You see, fourth subplane, fourth plane, intuition. Sixth plane, second subplane. Second aspect. And then, you remember, we were talking about idealism ruling ajna, by the sixth ray, with the 6-ray energy. And we have a different alignment here. Emotional idealism is found in the atomic or first subplane of the astral plane, where we find the head center. You remember the head center was mentioned there as a condition for the transmission to the brain. And we align it to the idealism, higher Buddhic idealism, on the third subplane. Now you see we have a third subplane now and a first subplane. And this is telling us that we have the third aspect indicated by this alignment through the idealism and ideas coming from the Buddhic plane, because on the third Buddhic is the throat center and here is the head center. So we are on the line of 1357 of the third aspect. And if you remember that reference, which I can bring it up to you again, where the ajna of idealism, that the 6th ray is related to the 3rd ray and 3rd aspect, as well as the 2nd ray and 2nd aspect. Okay? And we have, you know, fusion of the energies of the throat, 1357 line, and true love of the heart, 246 line, or astral Buddhic line. Okay? And we must remember that in any building process of any kind, we need to use both the 2nd and 3rd aspect. While the attractive power required for the form building is provided by the 2nd aspect, the power of arranging and manipulating of that energies, which is to be built, is provided by the 3rd aspect of the knowledge petals, the throat. Okay? Now, I will attempt to find another chart, which is this one. I don't know if I can make it a little bit bigger, but then we will lose some important part of it. Okay? I hope you can see this. This is rather a detail what I want to show you here, but nevertheless it is important to the wholeness of understanding these various alignments to the 6th ray brain, pituitary body, and the ajna. And to follow the 2nd aspect and the 246 line, we can link, you see, this is the 4th subplane of the mental plane where we find 4 centers. 1, 2, 3, 4. One of which is the solar plexus. Okay?
Elena, 5 minutes.
Yes. Okay, I just finished this graph, okay? And the solar plexus on the 4th subplane of the astral is linked to the love petals of the egoic lotus on the higher mental planes, and from there to the Buddhic permanent atom. You see the love petals. And we are coming down to the alignments. Okay? So one more thing I would just say, as I have this graph here, that we have 7 centers on the physical, etheric, in astral, but we have only 4 centers on a Buddhic. And why is that? Because the other 3 higher centers, because these are 4 lower centers, the 3 higher centers are represented by the petals of the egoic lotus. The throat is related to the knowledge petals, the heart to the love petals, and the head to the sacrifice petals. And through these petals or higher centers, because each petal is a center. I don't want to go into details of this, but just to bring your attention to it, because it is not general knowledge that the petals are actually centers. The energies from the spiritual triad are transmitted down. Okay? That's why you see the connection from the petals to all the 3 permanent atoms of the spiritual triad. Okay, people. Now, I hope you were able to follow all this, which, I will continue with it in the next webinar. But my intention, not only for myself, but also for you all there, to get some kind of understanding the real reason here behind that 6th brain in relation to that ajna and pituitary body. There is more to say about it, but we will leave it for the next time. Thank you for your attention. If there is any questions or comments of any kind, please share it.
I don't see any hands and I don't see any questions. Again, you've left everybody speechless.
VL, you make me laugh.
Good.
Well, again, maybe it's an inspiration for you to look at these things, maybe from a perspective which you have never considered to look at it. Because, we all have a brain, etheric and physical. And, it is good to know which of the glands and which of the chakras are the focal point in our lives and why. And what is the ray energy conditioning that brain, either etheric or physical. Because we will learn a lot through that discovery. Obviously, in relation, where we stand on the path in consciousness and so on.
Okay, still no questions, so...
Well, I am, I'm not really waiting for questions. I understand, if I was there and I am hearing all this, I need to digest it, look at it, and maybe then, I might find something, but it is absolutely fine with me.
Okay, well then, if there's no more questions, I guess we're ready to say goodbye and close the webinar then.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good night, everyone. I'm going to end the webinar now.
Yes, thank you also from me, and for your attention, understanding, and hope to see you again next time. Goodbye. Do you want me to do anything, BL?
No. I'll take care of it when I stop the recording, but we
Okay.
have a question here, so
Really? Okay.
thank you from Noeline. So that's it. Just the thank
That's it.
you. That's it.
Okay.
Okay, I'll
Thank
I'll
you.
try it again, and that will stop all of our recordings. So
Okay.
good night, everybody.
Good night.